The toll of the pandemic is highlighted in stark terms again today. A government report finds that expected lifespans fell in this country by a year on average in the first half of 2020. That is the largest drop since World War II. Overdoses, heart attacks, and other illnesses are part of that. But researchers say the pandemic undoubtedly is a major factor. Moreover, the gaps along racial lines are profound. White life expectancy fell by about 8 months, while Black Americans lost 2.7 years of average life expectancy. Among Latinos, life expectancy dropped by nearly 2 years. And these numbers are even larger among men. Experts say that this points to major socioeconomic disparities, and we're going to focus on that tonight. Dr. Reed Tuckson is a former commissioner of public health here in Washington, D.C., who now has his own firm. He's one of the leaders of the Black Coalition Against COVID-19. Dr. Tuckson, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. First of all, overall, as you look at these numbers broadly, are they surprising?
They are not surprising. We have known and experienced this excess exposure of African Americans to the COVID pandemic. We knew that we were dying 2 times more often than the rest of the country, and being hospitalized 3 times more. So it is not surprising. However, it still does not dim the sadness, the pain, the heartache that comes with looking at these quantitative numbers that are really describing in mathematical ways the feelings and emotions that we've had all along.
So when you see, Dr. Tuckson, as you mentioned, Black Americans, the average drop life expectancy 3 times that what it is for white Americans. Among Latinos, it's 2 times the drop that it is for white Americans. Why is this?
Well, we know, first of all, that African Americans are exposed to this virus more often than other people because of the nature of the jobs that we have. That so many of us are the ones on the front lines in running our buses and subways, in the retail industry, the ones cleaning our streets. We are the ones who are more often unable to make our livelihood by being at home and working online. So we're much more exposed. Number 2, the conditions under which so many African Americans live make it very difficult to fight off this COVID pandemic. We are often and more often living in crowded housing with multi-generational families. We have much less opportunity to do the social distancing that we wanted to have done. And then third and finally, a major element is that we were suffering from pre-existing chronic health issues, more heart disease, more lung disease, more diabetes, more obesity. And all of those, as we have learned from the beginning of the pandemic, predispose to poorer outcomes when you are finally infected with the COVID-19 virus.
It's so interesting that a number of the things you're discussing are parallel to what we heard from Dr. Bullard a few minutes ago in discussing why communities of color are disproportionately affected by these terrible winter storms and the conditions that come from them. But Dr. Tuckson, what about just in terms of health care services and what is available and what isn't in communities of color?
Well, first of all, I think it is very important to go back to the point that you're making about Dr. Ballard and the comments that he made. Remember that health is the place where all of the social forces converge to express themselves with the greatest clarity and the most importance. Health is where everything comes together. So when we think about the health outcomes of people of color, it's not just medical care. It is very much the social determinants that lead to health outcomes: housing, economic instability, education, challenging access to healthy foods, community environments that are filled with stress and are not safe. And then we come to the quality of care. And that point is very important. We have known now for 20 years, since the publication of a major National Academy of Medicine study called Unequal Treatment, that the delivery of health care to people of color is suboptimal compared to white America for a variety of reasons. And so this is a long-standing challenge that unfortunately the healthcare industry has yet to be able to fully and adequately address.
And I think part of what is so striking, and I was looking at the numbers this afternoon, is that among Black Americans, life expectancy had actually been improving. It had been increasing in the last couple of decades. So this is a really stark turn in the direction of where we want to see these numbers go. Does it tell you, I mean, we all know the country was caught off guard, was not prepared for this pandemic. Do you believe there are going to be clear lessons we can learn, we can do something with coming out of this pandemic?
I hope so. And I hope the first lesson that we learn, and this pandemic has shown such a bright light, is that each of us as individuals live in the context of a community of other people. So that when we choose as individuals to exert a right not to wear a mask and don't care that we could easily sicken or cause someone else to die, that is a major issue now of an ethical and moral nature in front of the society. If we have learned anything, it is that we have to begin to focus our attention on empathy and love, a concern and caring for everyone. For Black people, this is particularly important because we now realize that Black people have, because of a history of deeply planted seeds of distrust, and those seeds being watered every day by our experience in living our lives in American society, that distrust leads to very negative behaviors. It leads us to make decisions sometimes that are contrary to our best interests. And so now we know that as we go forward, that we've learned the lesson that we have to bond together. And certainly the health enterprise, the researchers, the clinicians, and the health policy experts have got to come together now and try to do everything we can with the rest of our society to overcome this distrust, because this distrust is not just an idle emotion. Distrust leads to death. And then finally, I think what this does is to focus everyone's attention on getting at these structural racism issues, these social determinants of health that were always present in creating excess experiences with disease and death. But now we know what it does for a pandemic like COVID-19. And hopefully it will now regenerate a much greater focus on getting at these root and fundamental causes.
Well, it is certainly something that we at the NewsHour are committed to continue to cover. And again, so stark, seeing these numbers over just the first half of 2020, seeing the life expectancy change, incredibly discouraging. Dr. Reed Tuckson, thank you very much.
Thank you.